let me go through my notes because I made a lot.
Yes.
Okay, so first off, this movie starts and Missy's marrying Deacon. Like
Dude,
that.
you've already skipped stuff I wanted to talk about. Just from that.
What? Go.
The movie starts out with the original Orion logo
Oh yeah, I know.
in its
I
standard definition.
yeah, it's like this sounds even crappy, and you're like, yeah.
Yes, that is awesome. Two, the Hammerstone Productions. Did you notice the little Bill and Ted carved into the rock beneath the?
Oh, I did.
Yes, it's them on the phone booth, and
Oh, I'll have to go back and look at that.
yes, like there was already stuff like right there, and then the Billy and Thea intro of them talking about their dads
Yes, yes.
totally sets the tone of the movie. Um, I I was definitely right on my prediction long before we saw the trailer. Like I thought when they said they were going to do a third one, my thought was it's going to be them having failed
Yeah,
at doing what they're supposed to do. Like, because there could have been other plots where it's like someone travels back in time to stop them, and they have to stop them from stopping them, like something like that, like a Back to the Future Part Two. Like that could have been really interesting. Like another Denomalous thing goes back, and then you have young Bill and Ted and old Bill and Ted. That would have been a fun idea. But like my thought was, it's going to be they failed at the career.
yeah.
Like I didn't think it was going to be about just one song. I thought it was going to be just the career in general. I didn't realize there was going to be so much emphasis on the band. I
Yeah.
thought it was just Bill and Ted, but no, this it made perfect sense. Now, sorry, back to what you were saying.
Okay. So Missy married Deacon. So she divorced Bill's dad. She divorced Ted's dad, and now she's marrying her little brother. And the funniest thing was his explanation, like, dude,
And
like now your own dad is his son.
yeah, you are now your own. Ted is your uncle, and oh my god, oh,
That is the same
it
actor.
was so nice seeing the original Missy back.
Yeah.
Um, that was awesome. She looked like she was having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, while at the same time, it was just so gross because I keep thinking of Deacon as that little kid from the first one, and
Holy
I'm like, God, no,
yeah.
no. And they're like flirting and kissing in front of Ted's dad, and Ted's dad. They got the same actor back from Ted's dad from the first two movies,
Yeah.
and he was perfect.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
other than like his hair changing color, like he looked exactly the same.
they had the same like bald spot and stuff. Like it was, dude, he nailed it, and he had his like that same. I hate that you're doing this, and you need to, do better, and you need to get a good job. And
And like
so
saying that you never died, you never went to heaven and hell, you never went in time. That
he
was
ties up, he expositions the first two movies for them,
yeah.
nails it. Like you never went to heaven and hell because all of it's impossible and you're wrong. And at that point, oh my god, dude, the song they played at Deacon's wedding. And the throat singing.
They're like crashing the theremin and stuff like that.
But what's funny is they actually were playing all of the instruments well,
Yeah.
which tells you they got so desperate. They didn't just learn to play the guitar, they learned to play
Every
every instrument,
um
which tells you like they were trying.
yeah,
This wasn't due to laziness.
yeah.
And they went from playing the Grand Canyon to
Dollar taco night or something like that.
$2 taco night. I do have one question. At the end of Bill and Ted 2, on one of the newspapers, it says Wild Stallions to play Mars.
You're right.
Think the show got canceled?
Or maybe it happens after Billy and Thea. I don't know.
No, 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 because it was the old them on the picture.
All right.
So
Yeah.
maybe that was a tabloid headline.
Well, speaking of
Doesn't
things
count.
that didn't like make sense upon initial viewing was Little Bill and Little Ted, but then they tied that together. They're like,
They did.
"Oh, it's Little Bill and Little Ted. We love that."
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they never called them he's.
Yeah, it's not, but
Bill and Ted
I
2.
mean, they're clearly boys, which is funny. Like,
Yeah. Well, when they're that little, it is kind of hard to tell.
yeah, I mean, it's
Um,
not a big thing, but it's just,
yeah.
but yeah,
That was kind of funny that they had daughters and the way they did it. Like, you used to call us Little Bill and Little Ted. We thought it was cute.
I love that so much.
Billy's like Keanu Reeves mannerisms, like with the ah
It was absolutely
diddly diddly dee.
perfect.
Uh,
So then,
so okay, so Bill and Ted at this point in their lives are in their early 50s, right?
mhm,
Yeah, they're in their early 50s, and they never ended up like they had that number one hit, and then it just went like they never wrote another number one after that
yeah, they were saying like everything was on the charts, but it was very like low on the charts, and then
until it just wasn't anymore.
yeah, they're like selling albums for like $1.
Yeah. And so their careers fell apart. They're like wedding singers practically, um, playing like bars and stuff. And they're having this total crisis moment because of what Ted's dad said to them. And then they get pulled into couples therapy with their princess wives.
But I have that's what I have next on my
Yes, start hitting me on your notes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just have couples therapy. Just we love you. That was amazing. Like
That
they're
whole dialogue.
aligned with each other, and it's almost like, I mean, they didn't establish like, do Bill and Ted live together?
Actually, uh,
Like, do
no,
all
no,
live together?
no.
No?
That is actually established in the movie because Bill takes Joanne's car, parks it in that driveway, but then goes across the yard to the other house.
They live in the same.
So they have one house, they have the other house, but clearly, I think it's Bill and Ted have one garage to practice in, and the daughters have the other garage.
Okay, I missed that. But yeah, that's I did
Yeah,
that 3 times. So.
yeah.
But yeah, the couples therapy was pretty good. Like the fact
That actress who plays the
that
therapist,
Alex on
fucking
Workaholics.
hilarious. Yes, I love her on Workaholics. I loved her on what was it? 22nd Jump Street.
Oh, I've never seen those. I need to.
Oh, those are so good.
I know I need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's always really funny.
Yes. Uh,
Okay, so then the
so they leave couples therapy.
and then a this was my first critique was, why is the phone booth gone? And I was like,
Okay.
and it answered it basically.
Well, more than that, I mean, that's actually that's shown to you in the first movie.
It's go like
Remember,
in
the
the
phone
intro.
booth is formed out of a blank slate.
Okay, are you talking about like the gold thing that's like spiraling at the beginning? Yeah, but
Yes.
I didn't know if it was the same thing because it looked differently.
Well, I think it's clearly the same technology. They probably just upgraded it.
Okay,
But they made it look like a phone booth to blend in with that society. By the time the third movie comes along,
phone
they
booth,
don't give a about blending in because of what the plot is.
right,
They're like, it doesn't matter if anyone sees us anymore.
right, okay. Well, so my first thought was like, why like my first thought was, why did they change the phone booth? I was like, oh my god, the phone booth's not gonna be in this. And then I was like thinking, like, if it's the future that Rufus is from, then why does it matter? And I'm like, oh, because there's more futures. Like it doesn't just stop when Rufus is there, and things could evolve and stuff like that too. So yeah,
Right.
but then the hologram Rufus was amazing when they went up.
So
That
this
was
follows probably my biggest critique of the movie, but this was spoilery, so I didn't want to talk about it.
yeah,
The future looks awful.
yeah. I
It
mean,
actually managed to look worse than Bill and Ted 2's future
yeah,
because first off, it looked like a PlayStation 4 rendered background.
mhm.
Everything was super uniform and bland. And if that's supposed to be like the creative utopia future that Bill and Ted created, why does it look so boring?
Yeah, because they're anything but boring. Like Bill and Ted, they just feel like
Right.
a movie, and yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that.
And
I
the
can,
only thing I could think of is that the new great one, Rufus's wife, she's a boring person.
Yeah.
Like Rufus was very much, you could tell he was brought up on the teachings of Bill and Ted,
Right.
but he was still a scholar. The new great leader had a personality, a striking personality at that. You
Right.
could see she loved Rufus by the way she talked about
Hmm.
him. And in her daughter Kelly, you could see her influence as well, unlike Thea and Billy.
Yeah. Okay.
She had the orderly nature of her mother, but she had the hopefulness that Rufus would have taught her.
Right. Okay.
So, if anything, I think the reason the future is so bland is that generation kind of forgot what Bill and Ted was about.
Okay.
Like, because she clearly didn't have an emotional attachment
Yeah.
to Bill and Ted the way everyone else does. She had all these scientists working around her. Hell, at one point, her plot is let's kill Bill and Ted. She went full Denomalous. Well, if we kill Bill and Ted, maybe this will fix it. Because apparently there's these other, apparently, like obviously Rufus mentions before there's a prophecy and everything, but apparently there were other people who had other sense, the way they viewed how things could turn out. And at the end of the day, it wasn't what Bill and Ted said that established this future. For people like Rufus's wife, it was Bill and Ted are going to make the future good, but we're going to do with that future what we will. Whereas Rufus was, Bill and Ted gave us this blueprint. Let's work off of it.
I like it.
Yeah, the future looks bland as the phone booth hologram Rufus was super touching.
Yeah, that was great.
And I loved when Ted waves to him as he's walking away.
And I looked up on IMDb because that's who I am when I'm at home.
Yeah.
I would never do it in theaters, but at home, it's who I am. So I saw that the voice was an impersonator.
Yes, the first line is him because
Yeah.
it's the way he meets them in the first movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the guy did a really good job because,
Did.
yeah, I mean, it was great. George Carlin.
Yeah.
So the original movie, when Rufus is talking, it's in 2720, and this movie, the future is 2688. Or no, sorry, the original one's 2688, and then the new one's 2720. So it's 32 years later.
Yes.
And so that makes sense. Like, we don't know how old Kelly is in the movie, but I mean, was she born?
She's clearly in her 30s.
Yeah. So was she born like when Rufus was going back in time? Whatever.
No, remember, Rufus says to Bill and Ted at the end of the first one, "My kids love it."
Right.
So he signed the album for his kids.
Right. So he has kids at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kelly was already alive at that point.
And then I wrote, oh, I see the phone booth. 7:17 p.m. I love how they just kept reiterating that, like, that's the time. Don't forget it. 7:17 p.m. Yep. And they kept the time in Sam Demas is always ticking.
Yes, like, because you and I have talked about this when there's no way it's been 15 years. You haven't watched the movie with me at some point?
Yeah, no.
Well, I guess we've just talked about it then.
Yeah.
But I know that always irritated me, and a lot of other time travel movie people.
Yeah.
Was, if they have a time machine, then how is time moving somewhere else?
Yeah.
But then it's actually kind of answered in this one because time is all happening at the same time.
Yeah, so they kept it going for continuity, but then they also like explained.
Yeah. Yeah, but if anything, I think the thing I appreciated the most was that they kept it for continuity. That just because they have a time machine doesn't mean they can get out of all that stuff. Because if you think about it, they're about to play that show in the year 2020 at this time, but they're jumping to the future to meet themselves in 2025. So if they haven't done it, how are they still alive then? Which is then explained later that it's all happening at the same time because there are infinite pasts and infinite futures.
I like it.
It was so good.
Yep. I absolutely love that they still say us's, like those loser us's, like that I was just,
they never lost that because
cracked me up.
Yes, because they are still them. those other us's suck, but this other us is really great.
I love it. I loved it so much. Like, I loved
Yeah.
how every iteration they just kept getting worse and worse. And
But they had such rich
yeah,
personalities.
and they were different character versions of, like, it wasn't just like they looked different, like, they actually played.
Right. Dude, when they okay, so guys stay in order.
Yes.
So they get the phone booth. They're told, "Hey, you guys have to now here's the plot. You guys have to write a song because if you as this is happening, we're finding out historical figures from different points in time are being ripped away and dropped into other points. So like Kid Cudi is pulled away from a concert and placed in Jesus's place during the Last Supper. And George and Babe Ruth during his famous home run where he aims the where he's going to hit it is suddenly crossing the Delaware River in Washington's place.
Yeah, I loved all that stuff.
So as history and time and space itself is breaking down, they're told by the great ones that they have to play a song at a specific time at a specific location, and that frequency that song, what it's going to do is repair all of time and space, which is super heavy. And they're told they have 77 minutes to do it, and they're given all of their instruments. Now, did you notice when the instrument cases come up, if you go dead to the middle, if you look at the first case to the right of it, it's the two guitars Rufus gave them at the end of the first one.
Oh, that's awesome.
They have the so they come back from the wedding thing and they talk to their daughters, and you find out their daughters are these like total music geniuses.
Yeah.
Like they know all this like great reference stuff. And their daughters head out, and their daughters have total faith in them. They're like, "You're gonna write the song. Good luck."
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, when Ted's dad says they idolize you and it's like a bad thing, it's actually like a good thing. Like, it's
It's
just
a total good thing.
so sweet. Like, they adore their dads, and
One of my favorite things during the movie is that even though it's Uncle Ted and Uncle Bill for each of the other kids, they refer to their dads as their dads.
yeah,
It's, "Oh, that's our dads." Like, dads. And they call both of them dads together the way Bill and Ted think of themselves as a pair with their wives because they're inseparable.
yeah,
Um
yeah. I mean, it was adorable. Like,
and then we're hit with like the moment. Like you see the moment cuz in the first one the moment was they're told by their teacher they're going to fail history. So at that very moment that's when Rufus travels back in time. In the second one, it's when they propose sorry, when they're bombing on stage and the music director's like, "Hey, I'm going to put you in the show, but you guys got to try harder." Of course, it turns out to be Rufus the whole time. But that's the moment when Denomalus is like, "Okay, let's send these guys back and kill them." And in this movie, it was the moment because Ted's like, "I could sell the guitar for like $6,400." And you see Bill, you can see the wheel spin in his head because he's like, "Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Are you saying what I think you're saying? Yeah, yeah." And they sit down at the same time and they look down, and you can tell at that moment they've decided the band's done.
yeah,
We're done. And at that moment, that's when Kelly lands
yeah.
as,
So wonderful they kept that going like this.
yeah.
Great. So at this point, uh, Bill and Ted are off. They've left.
So at this point, now we're back in the future. They're by the guitars and they have the conversation about if we, no matter what, we will have done this in the future. So let's travel to the future and steal the song from ourselves, which ultimately begins their actual downfall. Because instead of putting the work in themselves, they think, well, our future selves will have done it. We'll get it from them, which is exactly what creates those bad versions of them in the future.
And in the process, their wives leave them.
Because they told them to. Because when he runs in the office, he's like, "You're gonna leave us," and she's like, "No, I'm not." He's like, "Yes, you will." And she
Yeah,
goes, we are?
Yeah.
Like, she believes him that they're going to leave him. So part of you's thinking, do they leave them because they were told to leave them by them?
Yeah. And it's at what point did they? Because it says they gave him time machine to go look and find a better life with them.
Right. What you find out
Later
is
on.
later in the movie
That was really
because they got back together.
good. So their first encounter with themselves is at the is that the $2?
It's only like 2 years later.
So it's like a
Yeah.
bar. It's a bar, and they're playing, and they have. There's like no one paying attention. They
Nobody.
see them, they start running away.
Yeah. I've done shows like that. Like I've done an open mic at a bar during like happy hour where no one is facing us doing the stand up. They're all looking at the bar and ordering food and watching sports on TV. And we're just standing over on the stage doing stand up to no one.
Yeah,
And I've done those shows. And that's crushing. But so they see themselves from the past and the future them's like, go, run.
yeah. And then Ted is drinking, and when they get to
Heavily.
they're like, "You don't drink." He's like, "I not yet," or something like that.
He's like, but I will a
Will.
lot. And, and Bill's like,
And
and I will lie to you so much. I will become such a liar. Oh god. Okay, so they run into their future selves, and their future selves are bitter because they remember being themselves and traveling to the future to try to steal the song for themselves. And they haven't written it either
yeah,
because they are the two people who said we can't write it, let's steal it from the future.
yeah. And then they say they get into like an argument with each other, and they go, "Well, you're the one that made our wives."
Lost our wives. And then they're like, and you're going to go back and make it worse because they remember telling them that. So they say, and you're going to go back and tell our wives that they're going to leave us. And Ted's like, you're the one who made our wives leave.
Yeah,
And they so crushed. And you can see they're like absolute broken versions of themselves. And so
yeah,
then they travel back to the current time, tell their wives all this. At the same time, their future wives show up to escort their wives around. Oh, dude, it starts to get really crazy at this point.
yeah. They did.
And
Uh,
that's I think when we meet Dennis Caleb McCoy.
so this robot is the first time you see it, it's very intimidating, and you're just like, "Oh my god!" Like that's gonna be the end of it.
You
And they send them out, and
you say intimidating. It looked like a Power Rangers villain.
I liked his face though. Like,
Yes. Yes. The contact, yeah.
yeah. So and then the first time, well, that's later on. We'll get to that in a little bit. So the death robot is being sent out
Who it's been sent by the great leader, Rufus's wife,
because
Kelly's mom.
she decides that if that the music is not saved, the music is not going to unite. Bill and Ted dying is going to be what
Yes.
cancels out the
Fixes time.
So
Because
they're
she,
problems right now.
yeah,
Right?
because well, what happens is she says, write the song. They say, okay, we'll go write the song. And then they run away. They steal the booth and run away. So to her, she's like, well, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So she then mentions that there are other translations of the prophecy. And Kelly's very much like, well, Dad is the one who was right about everything. And the great leader's like, I don't think on this one. Let's kill Bill and Ted, and sends a Terminator after them.
So in a sense, like there's not an evil in this movie. It's trying to be the greater good, and things
Right.
yeah, there's not like
Well, the biggest bad guys are Bill and Ted.
yeah.
They are their greatest enemies in this, and they learn that.
Yeah. And then so when this is going on, Billy and Thea, they decide to, because all they know about is the song has to be written.
Yes.
And
Well, they only know that though because Kelly shows back up to modern time because she knows the robot's looking for him now. Thea and Billy are like, they look out the window, they see the pod, and they go, "It's the future."
yeah,
And they go talk to Kelly, and Kelly fills them in on this The song is going to be the thing that fixes the world.
but they
So
don't know about like the apocalypse happening or
no,
whatever.
that's what they know. Well,
Because later on they say
you're
we
right.
thought it was
They
this.
only know that they have to write the song,
So they
and that a robot's after them if they don't.
and so it's not like they don't steal the
No, she shows them how to use it. She's going to stick around and wait for the robot to show up, Kelly.
yeah
She teaches them how to use the booth, and then they do a Bill and Ted 1 Excellent Adventure all over again
yes
because they start traveling through time to
yes.
steal famous musicians.
Kelly's mindset was that if her mom was going to send a death robot, it would be to their current time setting.
Yes.
He's going to wait to take care of it. Yes, and then
Yes.
and when that was happening, when they were going back and doing Excellent Adventure, that was the first time I was like I get it, but like I don't want this to be a retread. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't want to be
Right.
a
Yes.
bit, blah 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 blah
I
blah.
could totally see that. And
Uh,
it wasn't. It was
it wasn't.
perfect.
And
The dude who played Jimi Hendrix, amazing.
yeah,
The dude that played Louis Armstrong,
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, so the first person they go to is Jimi Hendrix, and they go on stage. They see him playing. They're like, "Oh my god!" And he shoves them off, and he's like, "We're not.
Yeah.
I'm not helping you." And so then I believe it goes back to Bill and Ted, but their thought process is we got to get somebody who is going to convince him to join us.
And they go get Louis Armstrong.
Yeah,
And
they go from 1922 Louis Armstrong, so he's like 20 something years old.
yeah. And Thea had filmed, sorry, Billy had filmed on her phone
Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix playing. And so Louis Armstrong sees a camera phone for the first time,
Yeah.
sees a smartphone.
I wrote down on my notes, Louis Armstrong seeing the phone was cute.
It was cute. I was annoyed by one thing.
What's that?
No one who came up behind him seemed that amazed
Yeah.
by the technology.
They were amazed by the music, but they weren't like
Right. I would be like, what is this magic brick?
But yeah, so they bring Louis Armstrong back, and Jimi Hendrix
Yes.
still like, I don't believe you, and he starts going away.
Until he hears Louis Armstrong play.
Yeah, and then he's just like freestyling there, and he goes, "Oh, okay," and he comes out. While this is happening, Bill and Ted go to their next person. How far away was this? Was it 5 more years?
5 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So it's
they go to
2025.
this big mansion, and they're like, "We did it! This is our house. This is great." And they go
And-
inside, and they go through, and you see albums on the wall. And I was looking really closely. I don't
Yeah.
see Wild Stallion anywhere.
No.
What is all these? And then they go out, and uh, Ted seemed like he was like future Ted seemed like he was being honest.
I thought he was Slash from Guns N' Roses.
So they're both British. They're both British.
They both pull a Madonna.
Yes. I don't understand what that means.
Madonna is not British.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever heard Madonna talk?
I understand.
Fake British.
So the whole time I'm watching, they're like saying, "Yeah, we did it. Here's the song. It's gonna make you famous." And Bill, I'm sure it was. I mean, it was obvious, but like Bill was like bothering me. I wrote down something's up with British Bill, and
Oh, I knew it was suspicious right from the top. My thought was it's going to be something like it's not the. I thought it was entirely possible that it is a song they wrote, but it's them selling out. The reason they got famous is because they started to make mass-produced corporate music label punk pop something.
and they kept it going by they gave him the headphones, and
That's when I knew it was something else.
and you didn't hear what it was, and
Right.
you're like so they believe them.
Well, Bill's like, this is the most beautiful song I've ever heard.
Yeah,
And that's when I knew. I was like, it couldn't have been them then.
yeah,
Like, this is something else.
and they say that they're British because they go summering.
In England with the princesses. We're absolutely chuffed about it.
But yeah, so I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention to Bill enough or
Yeah.
Ted enough because I saw Bill look very suspicious, and I was like, "What's
Yeah.
going on?" And then Ted goes, why were you being so weird to yourself?" He's like, "I always have been," or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was really cute. But then yeah, they leave, And as they're leaving the front door and they got their music, like, yeah, this is great. Who comes in?
Dave Grohl. Foo Fighters, Nirvana, Dave Grohl,
He says, "What are
Tenacious
you doing at
D,
my house?
Dave
What are you
Grohl.
doing in my house?" And he calls the police.
But he recognizes them. He knows they're Wild Stallions because he tells the police it's Bill and Ted in my house.
That's funny. So
Yeah.
then Bill or Ted's dad comes
And Deacon,
team and Deacon.
who is an officer.
Yep.
Or he's like a lieutenant or something.
Yeah, he's something. But yeah, so they come in and Dad's just like, "This is the last straw. I can't believe
I'm arresting them and putting them away."
Yeah, they're so lazy and blah blah blah,
And Deacon's like, "Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. We don't know what this is."
yeah.
Because Deacon at least knows about the time travel thing.
So okay, so I think I zoned out for like a half a second, but I think I can put together what was happening. But they put buckets over their head because they didn't want to be able to. They didn't want to be able to, like, their future selves know what was going to happen or something?
No, it's because their future selves already knew what what was going to happen because they were them.
Okay.
Their future selves were the same Bill and Ted from that moment, trying to escape themselves. So future selves already knew what they were going to do. So when they're like, "Well, let's do something we don't know we're going to do,"
Yeah.
and they're like, "Damn, they did the thing. I am mad that they did the thing." They put buckets over their heads, so
They fell out the window.
right. So old selves have no idea how they got up there, and they're chasing them through this giant mansion. And Bill and Ted, they fall out the window. Their dad Ted's dad sees them and starts to chase them, and they jump in the phone booth to take off. As that moment, the killer robot shows up.
And he decimates.
He goes to shoot at them.
The phone is gone.
And behind them is Ted's dad and the SWAT truck.
Yeah, and he gets lasered as he
lasered.
And the first thing that I said was the robot's face when he killed Dad was hilarious.
It was because he knew he f***ed up.
Yeah.
He just immediately goes, "Oh,
yes." That was amazing. So then we cut to, and he's film going to hell. Yeah, and you see Death like flying by.
Okay, so here you're glossing over stuff too quick, damn it.
Yeah, I'll let it go.
Okay, so call back to Bill and Ted 2, the fall down to hell. It's still the long fall down to hell, except this time you can actually see it. Yeah. But as he's falling, you see the SWAT truck the robot destroyed is falling as well.
Yeah, the truck's going to hell. So it sets up later on a joke.
Yeah.
Let's go to hell.
So Ted's dad is falling, and he looks over, and there's Death from Bill and Ted 2, and he's all menacing. He's like pointing at him, like, "I'm gonna get you," and then it cuts away.
Yeah. So we go back to Billy and Thea, and they have recruited Jimi Hendrix and Louis Armstrong, and now they are looking for Mozart. Mm-hmm. And Mozart is playing a little concert in front of like a few people. It's like
one of his famous songs.
It's like such this like tinkly, you know. Like
well, it's almost the exact same scene from the first one.
Yeah.
When they steal Dave Beethoven.
They call him Dave Beethoven. So they're playing. He's playing one of his. I don't know what it is. He's playing one of his favorite songs. I should be cultured. And then Jimi Hendrix gets out his guitar and plugs it into the
pod.
And it makes amps, and he's playing along with it, and it was epic. And
Mozart, because he knows Mozart's Requiem.
Yeah.
And so he's playing it, and you can see like the guy playing Mozart, it's perfect. Like as he's playing the piano, he's like,
yeah.
And he even does this. He's like,
but he still plays.
And then he goes back to playing, and he looks he's like cheesed off. He's like, "Who is this?" And then as Jimi Hendrix is doing better and better and keeping up with him, and he's trying to improv at moments, and Jimi Hendrix is just, because he knows it, and he just loses his mind and runs outside to yell at them. And this was the first audio error I saw in the movie. Mozart, as he's yelling them, he comes out of the house and you hear his voice. His mouth is not moving.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I mean, I have to watch it again, but I'm going to see it now.
Yeah. So they get Mozart.
He calls him Wolfie.
Wolfie. Hey, Wolfie, I'm Jimmy.
That was awesome. So yeah, they give
Oh yeah,
Mozart is now on their team. And
yeah, and they go kidnap someone who I'm not cultured
oh
enough to know
yeah,
who it is.
yeah, the little flute, the
Yeah,
player.
Lu Ling. Now I've watched it like 3 times, and I don't mean to say it, like, in a bad way, like, I literally just don't know who this person
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So they recruit another person who's I don't
A
know.
flutist.
Yeah,
And
uh,
then they recruit a cave
a
woman
woman
drummer,
who's got like
Grom,
a full drum set of skins.
like a turtle shell,
Yeah,
and she's playing with
like
bones, and
Flintstones.
it's like a total cartoon moment, but it works.
Yeah, because it's Bill and Ted.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was I made a note that that was really quick. Like they
yeah.
spent so much time on Jimmy, Louie, and
It was very similar how they went and, like, got Lincoln and they got Freud. Like, they didn't spend a lot of time grabbing them. They just boom, boom, got them.
right. Okay, so then they cut back to Bill and Ted, and they are doing another jump, and they end up in prison. And they say, "Why are you guys in prison?" They say, "Because you left us." And they got arrested
He's
when
like, "You left us to take the fall back there." And I'm like, "That was your scam. They didn't take the fall."
yeah, that was their fault. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so like I love that, but yeah, like
So they're playing a song as Bill and Ted walk up
it's
to their
like
future
it was
muscle selves.
it was like a chant, like a
All it was a chant, and they're banging their weights during recess outside.
and he's like, "This is
Um,
the song, is it?"
they walk up, and so Muscle Bill and Ted are like, "How'd you like our song?" And he goes, "Was it a song?" Bill says, "Was it a song?" And they go, "Yeah." And then they say something to Ted, like, and they're like, the song's gonna go back to the future, and Ted goes, "But was it a song?" Yeah. And they're angry every time because, like, we wrote a song, and no one acknowledges it's a song. Now here was a continuity issue. Now I don't know if it's a continuity issue, but no, this is a plot hole that bothered out of me.
Okay.
As they go into the prison, you can see up past Bill and Ted that there is a prison guard with a gun standing above them.
Oh, he didn't do anything about it.
Why would you let two strangers just come in
And the gate was open, basically, like,
and
the gate
not
was
do anything?
open too, like, they're just in the
Well,
yard.
that was just the door into the yard. So I think that was just, but it was just like, how are you as a guard not going to notice? It doesn't matter. It's a Bill and Ted movie,
Yeah,
but
but still, you notice it.
that's, yeah.
Uh,
So at that moment they're arguing with themselves, and Muscle Bill and Ted are like, "Well, we're going to take the booth and we're going to go back in time and we're going to play our song," which was just about death and depression, and it was called "This Is the End." And
and their
and then
tattoos were amazing, excellent, and what is
heinous. Uh, yeah, they got all their own references on their bodies. It's hilarious. And at that moment, the robot shows up, and they just jump the robot because old Bill and Ted, the prisoners, are like, if they kill young Bill and Ted, you know what happens to us. So they jump the robot. They're kicking the robot's ass, and the thing the robot says is, "That was not a song." And old Bill and Ted and them turn around. They start beating the robot some more.
I did not hear that. I think this is the same. Okay, no. So okay, so where does this go from there? Because at this point, I was like, I started like, I was like entrenched, and I forgot to take
You
notes.
are disappointing to me. No, I'm joking. At this moment, they go to escape the prison, but Bill and Ted's wives show up with Bill and Ted's old wives, and they run into each other because, and they see muscled Bill and Ted. They're like, "Is that you?" And they push their wives into the booth with their old versions and send them away. And then they get in the booth and take off. And this is when they said, because he thinks about what Rufus's watch said. Rufus's watch has this line in it that says, "Sometimes the story doesn't make sense until the end." Uh, and they go, "Well, where else can we go to understand that?" And he's like, and Ted or Bill's like, "Well, let's go to the end." And they go to themselves on their own deathbeds.
And that was a
And
really
this
good
is
thing too.
most emotional part of the movie. Uh, Most absolutely emotionally heavy part of the movie.
I thought it was really sweet. Like I was just like they're looking at each other. Like the thing that was on my mind was like when they leave, they're like, "This were good boys." Like that was really cute. But yeah, I yeah, it was really sweet, and I love that like they had so like the storyline is they have the flash of it has the song on it,
The
and
song. And it's got the location, the time, Logan slash Preston on it.
yeah, this is MP46,
Mhm.
which is where the event's gonna happen. So they at that point they learn where they're gonna do the show.
No, they didn't.
No, they learned the name of it.
No, they already knew MP46.
Oh, they did.
Oh, what they did learn was the name of the song. The name of the song is Face the Music.
Right.
That's what they learned.
Okay.
Now, I think this point of the movie, and I don't know if I'm looking too deep into it, but at this point, so they meet their oldest versions of themselves as they're near death. And you see, like, on the nightstand or the dresser, there's a picture of their wives, and their wives are older. So at some point during the time they saw them last, they got back together with their wives, and they learned the song, and they recorded it, and everything turned out fine.
Yes.
So their lives actually ended up really good. And here they are, they're at this hospice center, but it's really nice. It's really cushy. It looks nice. It's not depressing. And they go in and they talk to their older selves. And this part was so heavy to me. And like I said, I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but Bill goes to talk to Bill and Ted goes to talk to Ted. And Bill is, they're talking to their older selves. And it's almost like I was wondering, is this Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves talking to Bill and Ted? Is this them saying goodbye to their characters that
Oh,
they've created?
yeah.
Because that's really the way I felt. And Bill says to himself, he's thanking him for all the times he was there for him. Because when you think about it, is they made enemies of themselves, but they also fixed themselves.
Mhm.
And so Bill thanking Bill for helping himself through those times. And Ted's doing the same thing with Ted. And this goes back to that thing where Ted's like, I've always had trouble dealing with myself.
Yeah.
And Ted has this like deep moment where he's talking to himself and he says, I never really opened up to you. Older Ted says to younger Ted. And I mean, you'll see it when you watch it again. Just think of it from that lens. But it's a big part of it felt like, is this them having that breakthrough with themselves? While at the same time, it definitely felt like Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter talking to the Bill and Ted that they created and grew up with and were apart from for so long.
Yeah.
Um, well, they give them the song, and you actually hear a little bit of it for a second. It sounds amazing.
The guitar riffs and stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So at that point, well, sorry, during that conversation, Bill sees his uh, old wife. Old Bill looks over, and at that moment, you see old Joanne and old Elizabeth steal Bill and Ted's phone booth. And that's the phone booth that they go to take their wives through time.
Right.
So their booth is actually gone at that point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And yeah. So they have that talk with themselves. They say their goodbyes. They hug. It's really emotional. Um, and as they're leaving, they see that the booth's gone, and that's when the robot shows up again.
Dennis Caleb McCoy shows up, and
And
he
we completely skip the thing with the family.
yeah. So the robot Dennis McCoy is so okay. So they have their crew. Billy and Thea have their crew.
And they've gone back to 2020
Yeah, they're going back to the garage, and
to meet up with Kelly.
as they open the garage door up.
You jumped too far ahead again.
Okay.
So at that point, we go back to 2020 and we see time is so messed up now where Kelly is standing outside Bill and Ted's house that the Great Pyramid of
Oh,
Giza is across the street. Queen Elizabeth is staring at it in shock. And she's talking to her mom on the phone saying, I'm not going to tell you where I'm at, or you're going to send your killer robot after me
That
next, that
was
sort of thing.
hilarious.
Yeah.
She was just like, "I got this, mom," and
Yeah. So Billy and Thea show up at that moment, and that kid Cuddy, who was with Jesus for a moment where Jesus was at, is suddenly teleported there. So he joins the band at that moment. Um, and it turns out he's this like amazing astrophysicist, theoretical astrophysicist, and he's like describing all these like, now is it a hypothetical holographic loop or a causal? And Thea and Billy are talking right back at him with that same stuff, and you're like, that's okay,
yeah,
that's heavy.
I loved
And
it so much.
that's when it's revealed to the band and everyone that reality itself is being destroyed.
Yes.
And so they go, well, let's wait here for our dads to show up because this is where they'll come next. And that's when they go to the garage and
And Dennis, Caleb McCoy is there, and
the killer robot.
he blasts all of them. So every single person in that crew is now dead, and
Yep.
they go to hell. And
Yep.
his face at that point was just and he said, I can't remember what he says, but like I was reminded like he was channeling Stewart from Mad TV.
It felt that way. Like it was, I totally get what you're saying. But at the same, it was, God, I don't know. Oh my God. It was amazing. Just the look of abject fear and failure in his eyes when he realizes what he did. Because he thought it was Bill and Ted coming home opening the garage.
He was
So he blasted whoever it was, including Kelly.
Yeah.
So all of them are sent to hell. And he's just standing there going, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, I seriously was like, he's channeling Stewart from Mad TV. Like that was so funny. He was just like, no.
Um,
Uh, so
so they all go to hell.
they all go to hell, and they don't
Nothing,
they don't
nothing else happens there for a bit. Now we're with Bill and Ted in the future.
yeah. So they come out of is it a retirement home or is it
Hospice.
hospice? Okay, so they come out of the hospice. They've got the flash drive. It's like, oh, this is great,
But the booth's gone.
phone booth's gone, so they're stuck there. And then this is the point when Dennis McCoy.
Now we're saying his name, but we haven't actually heard it yet. We're still calling him a Terminator at this point.
Okay, so yeah,
But yeah,
the robot comes and he says, "My job is to terminate you." And he's like, "But we got the song though." Like they're like, "That's
they show him the flash drive.
got it. We're good." And then the robot is just sitting there like, "Oh, he's like, I have to apologize to you." He's like, "I failed.
He goes, mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made." And he's like,
Must expiate guilt.
"Your family." And they're like, "Well, not family." And it's like, he's
I,
like, I
he's like, murdering families, and they're like, "You what?" And he's like, "I lasered your daughters."
your daughters.
And at that point, his robot voice is gone, and it's like it's his talking voice. He's like, "I lasered your daughters."
That was really great. And then
And they're like, "You did what?" And they're like, kill us, so we can go to hell and get our daughters back."
and he says something like, "I can't kill you because you have the song." So they break the flash.
Yes.
And they say, "You have to kill us now." And at that point, the robot turns the laser to himself.
What? He's achieved some level of sentience, and he's like, "No, I will murder no one again." Like
the guilt just consumes him, and he's gonna kill himself. And Bill and Ted jump right to where the laser is gonna be. And as
he points in his mouth.
As that's happening, Elizabeth and Joanne show up, and they see Bill and
Ted get killed.
Yeah. So then they're going to hell also. And then so they're going to hell at this point, right?
Yes, they land in hell, and it's not long after they're walking around hell. At this point, we go back to the far future, and the Great Leader is watching the hologram thing, and she thinks for a moment it's fixed because Bill and Ted are dead, and that everything starts to break again even faster.
Yeah.
So she's only just made it worse. She realizes what's happening, and there's nothing they can do, and everyone else is in hell. And Bill and Ted go to get them, and they find their family, including Ted's dad. And so they get everyone together, and this is this was in the trailer. But it was one of my favorite parts is when Ted's talking to his daughter, and he's like, "How are you doing?" And he's like, Billy's like, "Well, we're good. We're in hell." And he's like, "Yeah, but how are you doing?" Like it was this like deep thing. She goes, pretty good.
So, I have a few things before that. So,
Yeah.
when they're looking for them and they see the demons in the corner and they're
Yes.
like, "Oh, yeah, they're over there," and they're like, the robot's there, and well, first
Right.
off, like, how did you get how are you here? How are you even here? You're a robot. And
Right. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I jumped ahead this time. So the robot lands in hell with them, and they're like, "How is that even possible?" And you just see Bill just go, "I'm not even going to worry about it right now." Essentially,
then they go ask they're looking it on and they're like trying to find them. How are we gonna find them?
the door to hell is opening, and the robot's like, "Can I come with you guys?"
They're like, "Whatever, whatever."
Well,
Uh,
he did kill us, so I guess. And then he introduces himself. My name is Dennis. Okay, and they start to walk away, and he goes, Dennis McCoy. Okay. And they start to walk away again. My full name is Dennis Caleb McCoy. And at that point, that goes his running gag the rest of the movie. Is introducing himself as Dennis Caleb McCoy.
and then they're looking for her for the daughters, and they see two demons that are just like hilarious. They're just like,
Well, they're like, oh, what a nice group. Nice kids. Yeah.
and then they
Uh,
walk away like,
they went
"How
that
did the
way.
robot even die?"
Yeah, yeah. He's like, was that a robot hell? That's not something you see every day. Now, did you recognize those two guys?
No,
Ziggy Piggy, Ziggy
really?
Piggy. Those are the guys that wrote the movie.
That's so funny.
They were the writers of the first movie. They showed up in the second movie. They were part of Missy's seance group.
Okay,
Two
yeah,
guys in Missy's seance group, and they're the demons there.
that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah,
Oh, the demon says that's a robot in hell. Yeah, that's what he said. That's a
yeah.
robot
That's
in hell.
Robin Hell. You don't see that every day.
And
And
we find out
they
that
run into Kelly, and Kelly's like, "Great, you killed them too. Is everything fine, Mom?" And you find out she's able to talk to her mom from hell on their space phone.
yeah, and then she finds out that Dennis Caleb McCoy is her ex's name. So the robot was named
Right.
after her ex. Just
And
like,
he tries to introduce himself to her, and she goes, "No, no,
no,
go, go."
she was phenomenal. I loved her in this so much.
Oh, she was so
Love
good. She's talking to her mom on the phone. She's like, "This is the Christmas incident all over again." And now I want to know what that was.
Uh,
So yeah, they meet up with her family. Oh, and this is like one of the best moments when Ted makes up with his dad, because his dad's like,
I believe
"You
you.
being here proves me wrong about everything I said. You really did go to heaven and hell. You really did travel through time." And he actually says, and I shouldn't be ragging on you. I should be supporting you. Like you can see the dam break in his head. Everything he has been doing to Ted his entire life to turn him into himself, you see at that moment he realizes he was wrong about everything.
Right.
And he hugs, like Ted and his dad hug it out. You never see them hug.
Yep.
And it's this like super emotional moment. It's super heavy. And Bill goes, "Thanks, Captain Logan." And he looks at Bill and goes, "I wasn't talking to you, Bill." Just like in the first movie. And I'm like, God, he's still a dick, but okay, okay, okay. I see. I see. I see.
So they make up and they find each other. They're all like, okay, now we have to get out of here. So they go through another doorway, and you see Death playing tetherball by himself.
And hopscotch, he's cheating.
Yeah, the hopscotch. So he's playing games by himself, and he comes in and he's just is like,
Well, because they say they're like, "How are we going to get out of here?" And Bill and Ted go, "We have to talk to Death." And the girls go, "Do you think he's still mad at you?" And they both go, "Yeah, but we're still mad at him."
that was so great.
And we don't know why
Yeah,
these guys are mad at each other. So when Death sees them, he's pissed, and they're having to pretend not to be angry when they see him too. And at that
this
point,
is
the
supposed to be a
bombshell
restraining
drops.
order.
Yeah. So Death goes, "What? Are you going to sue me again?" And I'm like, holy shit. They put a lawsuit against Death? And then you find out they got a restraining order against Death. And at this point, I'm thinking they are huge douchebags. But then you find out why.
Yeah,
And it was because Death tried to copyright Wild Stallions as his own name because he's like, well, I was the best thing in the band. So I was the band.
he's like, the world wasn't ready for a 49-minute or bass solo.
Yes, he would do like they were like, "Oh, he's like, you wouldn't let me play." And like all you would do would play 40-minute long bass solos. No one else could play. And And then like you find out he like released an album that was nothing. That was like 3 hours of just bass, and
Yeah.
oh my
The critics
god, it
the critics said it was all over.
was all over. It was worse than Pale on Pale. Was
And,
dying.
so Billy and Thea come in and they are going to solve it. They tell Bill and Ted to get out.
Yeah.
Like,
So
"Beth,
yeah,
if we handle it, you go outside."
and
And
they do
they worship death. They're just like, "You
because
did that song." They're like, "Oh."
the last three riffs of a Pale Goodbye or something like that, and like because they're so good with music, they can pick out the good stuff from the bad stuff.
Yeah, and
And that's like their power with music.
yeah, and they were like when he started bringing up the negative reviews, they're like, "Oh yeah." And, but
But this part was good. And he remembers them. He's like, little Bill, little Ted. Because they grew up around
yeah,
him.
and so yeah, so
Oh, and you find out Death got demoted in hell
oh
for
yeah,
taking them to
taking
heaven.
two of them up. Yeah, he's like, I got demoted for taking two up. He's like, so I'm not gonna. He goes,
Oh, and when they're like, and if you don't help us, the world's going to be destroyed. And he has his scythe and he starts playing the world's smallest fiddle on his scythe.
so
Oh, that
I
actor
mean,
is
he,
hilarious.
he literally just picked it back up
He
again. Like,
steals every scene he's in.
yeah, and I mean, and then when they finally make up and they both apologize, we're sorry. They
Oh, and
do,
they hug it out.
and they add the bass riff was in there. It's like, I was like, yes,
And they hug it out, and it's like, okay, so while they're talking, in the back right of the corner over Ted's shoulder, you can see the electric football table from when they played Death. On the shelf behind Death is the Battleship game. So he still has all those games from when he played them.
yeah, I love it so much. Like there really was so much just love put into it.
There was so much attention to detail kept.
So they
So at this point, the SWAT van comes back into play, and
oh
they
yeah,
jump.
yeah.
They all get in the SWAT van. Ted's dad's driving, and Death's using his magic to levitate it. Oh, and and Dennis Caleb McCoy joins them. He's like, I got lost in hell, and he climbs in the back of the van with them, and they go back up to Earth, and
That's when they land in traffic.
they land in traffic. But wasn't there something between them going up?
I mean, there was a scene where like Dennis says something like "I want to rock" or something like that. And
Yeah, there was.
you have to earn
I
that.
like so Death in the truck's like, let's rock, and the truck goes up, and Dennis leans in and says, Death, I like that part when you said let's rock. It made me want to rock. And Death's like, you must earn the right to rock.
Yeah, but I mean, I know it shows Missy and Deacon in a car, and they're sending them
Yes,
to the airport.
yes. So we pick up with Missy and Deacon here, and this was the part I think they actually missed a great opportunity.
Okay.
So Missy and Deacon are in traffic, and you see like an astronaut show up and a caveman fall on top of their car, and they're experiencing time falling apart while they're trying to get to the airport for their honeymoon. At that moment, they should have had Napoleon from the first movie show up.
Oh,
That Deacon sees him, and
that
that's who he chases after
would been
instead of the caveman.
yeah, that would have been so funny. I agree with that
And
because
have him go like, Deacon?
yeah, because like because like he is so ingrained in his dad. Like he
Yeah.
called his dad, where not Bill. Like that. Like it's almost like he tuned that out. That like he saw Napoleon.
Well, I think he always assumed that was just some crazy guy.
Okay, and he's like, he's a
But if he had seen him there, that would have been the moment he was like, it was all true.
yeah.
I think just that. I think that would have been a perfect opportunity.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
But yeah, so,
Uh,
go ahead.
yeah. So at that point, the van lands in traffic, and go ahead.
They come out of the van and they're basically like, "This is we got like 10 minutes or something like that," and they're like, "This is what are we gonna do? Like we don't have the song."
And
They
everything starts coming together.
yeah they're like the daughters are like, "We got this band, we're all ready for you, and we're gonna rock." And Bill and Ted go, "We have to let you down. Like we didn't get the song." and they're
They
like,
broke the thumb drive to get the robot to kill them.
yeah, and they're like, they said something like, I don't know, I forget what they say now.
Well, they apologize. They say we don't have the song, and um, at that moment they look at Logan and Preston, because in their eyes it's Logan, Preston, their daughters, Logan, Preston, and they hold up. They each have half of the thumb drive. It says Logan, Preston. They look at it, and they look at their daughters, and they look at it, and at that point, like, they come to this realization that the whole time that they should have been listening to their daughters, because their daughters are able to take bad stuff, find the good parts in it, and make it work. So they've raised their daughters to be such, like, musically acumenly skilled, that their daughters are able to take all of this chaos and arrange it to work. And at that moment, like, everything starts coming together. Bill and Ted look over and see they're standing at MP 46, which is a highway mile marker. A truck turns sideways that has an empty bed on it. That's a perfect stage.
Yeah.
And there's a Guitar Center truck full of instruments. And Kid Cudi, like, cuts into the electrical cable along the bridge and, like, gets them power. So you have all these famous, you got Jimi Hendrix, Louis Armstrong, Lingland, Grom, Mozart up on stage. They have all these instruments, and
Playing a mess. So they just
it
start,
is awful.
yeah, they just start playing, and as it's happening, like
Oh,
Saturn,
and death with his bass.
yeah, and like as it's happening, like Saturn, there's like a Saturn eclipse.
Yes, Saturn. And Saturn shows up in the sky, right, blocking out the moon, and Ted's like, "It's a lunar eclipse," and Bill goes, "That's not lunar, dude."
Yeah.
And
So like
the wives show up with the phone booth at that moment, and this part's actually just hard to explain. You kind of have to see the movie to get it, but at this point, the daughters are doing what they do best. They're taking all the chaos on the stage and finding the best parts out of each thing and arranging it, while at the same time Bill and Ted make a revelation. They realize that it's not the song is one thing. Like, you can see, like, a hole open up in the air above them and the circuits of time are exposed. And at that moment, all of time and space is interconnected through this, like, tube. Like, the past can see the future can see the past. People all exist at the same moment. And Bill and Ted realize, it, how can a song bring everything together? And they somehow, between, I don't know how they made this leap in logic, but they realize that they have to give instruments to everyone in the world to play the song along with them.
right. Didn't Kid Cudi help them get to that realization?
He helped them come to the scientific part of using the booth infinite option.
Yeah, they decide that everyone has to have an instrument and join together and be united.
Yes, and at this point, we've got 7 minutes left that they say to Kid Cudi, and so Bill and Ted at this point with their wives jump in the phone booth, and they use the infinite button that I've always wondered what the they did.
They're going to dial. They're like, "How do we dial the infinite?" And then she goes, "Let's just hit the infinite button." And he's like, "Excellent." And
They
then
actually start trying to dial an infinite number
yeah,
manually. You realize they would be doing that infinitely. And it turns out what it does is, at that moment, the phone booth enters the circuits of time and splits into an infinite number of itself to hit every moment in time throughout time.
so then there's like infinite Bill and Ted's going into all the different things.
Right. And taking this, like, phone booth full of instruments to everyone in the world,
Yes.
so that everyone on Earth at this moment is all playing the same song.
Yes.
That the daughters give them the speed and the key to play it in. And you see, like, Ted show up and talk to Missy and Deacon. He hands them guitars. He's like, "At this moment, I'm an infinite me." And instead of, like, they don't get back in the booth to leave, like, as they land and hand the instruments, they poof out, because that infinite number of them is then rejoining back with the core version of themselves, which opens up kind of a plot hole to me.
Okay.
Not a plot hole. Did they give instruments to Hitler? Saddam Hussein?
I
Osama bin Laden?
don't know. I don't know how to answer that question.
Ted Bundy?
Of course, Ted Bundy got one.
I'm just like, did they? You see them handing instruments to everyone in the mostly where the daughters had just been, but you see they're like going everywhere in the world and handing out instruments throughout all of time. That means everyone
Mhm.
who's ever lived.
Yeah.
Bad people live. So did they just skip the assholes? Like,
They didn't need to
it,
be.
or it's a Bill and Ted movie, so we don't think about it. Right.
Okay, so
Oh, and as they're about to take off in the phone booth, Kid Cudi goes,
that
"Station!"
was amazing.
And Bill and Ted and his wives go, "Oh, station!"
So one by one, Billy and Thea start getting like each musician to like do their thing in
Mozart to match up with Death, Death to match up with Kid Cudi, Jimi Hendrix to match up with Louis Armstrong.
and the time the countdown's one down and they go, we got to take our spot. So they're handing the guitars.
Oh yeah, Bill and Ted arrive back in the main phone booth on the stage.
Yeah, so they get their guitars and they start playing and they're playing.
Oh, and their wives get a guitar and a
Oh, yeah.
what did Joanne get?
I don't. I can't remember. I just know they had an instrument.
Um, everyone on stage is an instrument. Uh, oh, by the way, the robot and Kelly have gone back to the future to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, when I
Uh,
first saw them leaving, I thought like they were just abandoning ship because she's like, "I said bye to your daughters and saying bye to you," and I was like, "Oh,"
yeah.
and I was
No,
like,
I think
"You didn't."
I'm gonna go. Oh, and by the way, we forgot to mention this. The killer robot is his own time booth. He encapsulates himself in a time
Oh,
booth
yeah,
as it's happening.
yeah, like it
And
makes like
I thought that was so smart.
yeah,
And like he's able to travel with Kelly that way. Like he puts his arms around her, and as he's saying goodbye, he goes, "I am Dennis Caleb McCoy." And the booth takes around, goes up into space
yeah.
and take off. Um,
So they play the song
which
and
is
go ahead.
it's is it a song?
I mean, it's music. They're playing music.
It's music. It's music. I remember talking to Leopold. I was like, yeah, but it kind of sucks that there are no words. And he said, and Leopold said, yeah, but it's supposed to be universal music.
Oh, yeah,
And I'm like, that makes sense,
that makes sense. Yeah, because if there's lyrics and they're not, yeah, they're not.
right?
Makes sense.
Uh, so everyone's playing, and then as they're playing the song, they hit that moment. At that exact second, Bill and Ted start playing, and as Bill and Ted are playing, this energy starts coming from the universe because all these people start like Kid Cudi's the first to get teleported back to his regular time. And Jesus shows up where he was supposed to be, and now Jesus is banging on a cowbell.
The table.
Yeah, during the Last Supper. And so all this is happening. And as people travel to their time they're supposed to be, the energy starts like coalescing in the universe and gathering in Bill and Ted's instruments. And Bill and Ted, as they're like playing the song, all this power builds up inside their instruments, and you see like they're really tearing it up. It's amazing. Like Jimi Hendrix is looking at them amazed, and
Oh yeah, he gave him a little like,
he
like
did. He's like, "That's freaky. That's good." And this energy builds up in their guitar, and you see all of the energy from everything that's happening gather inside Bill and Ted and shoot up into the circuits of time, and it heals everything. Um, and literally all of time and space is repaired at that moment. Everyone who was like accidentally displaced is put back where they're supposed to be. Um, and then it ties up a loose end from the first movie at this point, and I thought it was perfect. Perfect. Did you catch it?
I don't know.
In the first movie, when Rufus is introducing everything, he talks about, he says their music uh, aligned the planets, bringing in communication with all forms of life on other planets. Do you remember what happens at the end of Face the Music?
No.
Jupiter was pulled in, sorry, not Jupiter, but Saturn was pulled in close to Earth.
Yeah.
But as the music is playing, all the planets you can see have lined up
Oh, really?
into it. So at that moment, Bill and Ted's song, as it as the gravity well from the Circus of Time is completed, the planets are left in this new alignment, which creates a celestial harmony. But it also allows them to then communicate with other people from other planets, including Station.
That's
So
amazing.
that because it makes you wonder, like in the first movie, you're like, how does music align planets? That's it.
I love it, and
Yeah.
that's how the movie ends. Like
Yep.
they don't go back and like show life afterwards. It's like that's the end.
That's it.
Except, did you watch it the credits?
Of course.
Yeah. So as soon as you texted me, or as soon as I saw that you texted me, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna go to the bathroom first. Went to the bathroom, and after I watched all the credits, like all
Yeah.
the contest winners that got to be in the show, um, I went to the bathroom and I came back and I was just setting this up, getting this set up, and I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, it's still on, and they the old Bill and Ted have their guitars and they do one.
What? He goes, "Hey Ted, are you dead yet, dude?"
Oh
And
yeah,
and Ted goes, "No, are you?" And Bill goes, "Still here." Well, I guess that means we have one last thing we need to do. And the two of them get up, they hook up their amps and their guitars, and they start shredding.
yep.
Like there's no like arthritis in their bodies as they're doing it. It is amazing the amount of shredding they're doing.
And then when they're done, says, "I gotta sit down."
I
It's like,
gotta sit down. I'm so sorry. And they give each other a high five, and Bill's arms like all, oh God, nurse.
yeah,
Perfect ending.
yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the movie,
Yeah.
and it was. I mean, at this, if you watch this, you either don't care about spoilers or you just wanted to hear it again, and it was. We loved it.
I know there are some people that probably were so worried it was going to be bad and then taint their image of the original, because some people that is how it is, and they may have just wanted to hear that it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Yep. Okay, plot hole. Where is Station? Station was a part of the band.
That's true.
Where's the good robot us's?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to see the good robot us's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, but this was a new band though. I mean, besides, I mean, like, we had the wives and we had
Yeah, but Death.
yeah,
So Station is a part of the band.
yeah, I know.
Or do you think at the end of the second one they let him go back to heaven?
Yeah, maybe
Maybe.
it's a Bill and Ted movie.
It's Bill and Ted movie. Don't think too heavy about it.
But yes, I mean, I really did love it. It, like you said, it was like you're just an old friend and you just pick up where you are, and it's, I mean, it's definitely a worthwhile sequel. It's definitely answered my question of why do we need this, because I mean, I was excited when I first saw the announcement. I was excited when I first saw the trailer, but I was like you, a little nervous. Like, oh my god, it's gonna
Yeah.
be the two girls going off, and it's gonna be their movie. I think it was split very evenly, perfectly. But
It
then,
was still mostly Bill and Ted.
yeah,
Um,
but at some point,
I loved the daughters. They were amazing. I thought they were great.
I don't know if I thought. I don't know what happened, but I think at some point I started thinking it was going to be in theaters and I wasn't going to get to see it because I'm not ready to go to the movie theater yet.
Yeah, me either.
I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to watch it later. And then like I just like I texted you like 4 days ago, and I was like, oh, it comes out Friday and it's on digital, and I was like, okay, so that's when I started getting excited again.
Yeah.
Because I almost just forgot about it completely. Because I'm not gonna see it in theaters.
They've been talking about this movie forever.
Yeah,
But it was what, a year and a half ago when they like when Bill and Ted showed up. What was it? It was that magazine when Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter showed up on that. There was a magazine appearance they did like a year and a half ago where they said the script's done, we're ready to go,
hmm.
and they said like we're going to begin filming now. And I remember thinking, like, I said to myself, like, they've had so many times where I thought they were going to do this that I won't believe it now until I see a trailer. And then all of a sudden you saw those production stills come out of them in their like wedding tuxedos, and I'm like, holy shit, it's really happening. And pretty much since then, I felt like I was just super pumped for it. And normally, I feel like it probably would have felt like it took a long time, but this year has sucked so hard, so badly. 2020 is such a pile of shit that I forgot I was looking forward to things.
Yeah.
Like I knew this movie was coming and I was excited for it. We were supposed to have seen Ghostbusters 3 already. I'm still crushed about that. But I'm so thankful they released Bill and Ted digitally because that has a and then the same day I watch it we find out Black Panther passed away. That's bull. Um but this movie is one of the best things to come out of 2020, which I know it's like saying I'm really happy I got the stale piece of bread instead of a turd sandwich, but this was like this was like showing up at a school cafeteria and being handed a filet mignon, you know? I I really just didn't expect anything good this year, and to get this really helps a lot.
I mean, this really could have been a flaming turd, and it really could have been.
And I am so happy that not only was it good, that it made the other ones better
Yeah,
because
I hear that.
yeah, because there's so often like I'm not one of those people where I think a sequel ruins the original because Dumb and Dumber 2 was one of the worst things I've ever seen. And it ruined those characters in that movie, but I can go back and watch the first Dumb and Dumber and go, I like this. These are good characters. I wonder what happens in their life. Like I just don't acknowledge Dumb and Dumber 2 after that. But this movie it was just amazing.
I mean, to Dumb and Dumber also had a prequel that was disastrous.
See, that's to me, that's like the Ghostbusters 2016, where it is this one. Well, the difference is it was connected, but because it had none of the original cast in it, I feel like I could ignore it even more. Like, it's like, do you really acknowledge Ace Ventura Jr.?
Oh yeah, I know.
Like, did you know that was a movie?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Son of the Mask.
The Mask. Yeah, but like Ace Ventura Jr. wasn't in theaters, was it? That was
I don't know.
Yeah, so like we had like because Dumb and Dumber and 2 and Dumb and Dumber which made no sense.
I thought Dumb and Dumber was straight to video.
Oh, I was in theater.
That sucks even worse.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, so I mean, it definitely did break the long hiatus being bad.
And actually being amazing. Because, and here's another thing. Number 3 in a series. It's so rare for number 3 in a series to be the perfect highlight of the first two. Very rare. Like, look at Terminator 3. It's a serviceable movie, but it's nothing compared to Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Home Alone 3.
I almost said
garbage.
I said Jurassic Park 3, but then I was like, oh wait, never mind.
Jurassic Park 2 was bad too. No, we're talking about the third installment that wasn't that good, but wasn't like it wasn't like a Blues Brothers 2000 because there was no sequel to this. What Blues Brothers 2000 was the sequel to Blues Brothers, so it wasn't the third.
Right.
It's very rare that the third movie,
like The Matrix.
See, I didn't like Matrix 2 and 3.
I liked 2, but 3 was I lost interest.
But 2 and 3 were the same movie. Remember, they just did a Lord of the Rings and cut it halfway through.
Yeah, I know, but like I feel like too much was. I remember like
you got me on too much because that movie was too much. Those 2 movies were too much.
Yeah. That bad CG of the fight in the rain with the multiple Smiths, that was terrible.
The fight in the rain with the multiple Smiths was garbage. The Rastafarian ghost vampires, the guy in the room with all the TVs, and it became too metaphorical and.
Yeah, The Matrix should have just been one movie.
Well, here's the thing. I would have been fine with a sequel, but I think it actually would have made more sense if it had spawned a series of movies where Keanu Reeves wasn't the main character.
Hey, look, we're talking about Keanu Reeves again.
John Wick. John Wick, that's an example of the third movie being as good. Have you seen the John Wick movies?
I own them.
Brandon.
I know. I own them. I'm gonna watch them. I know.
Well, I know what we're watching next.
There you go.
Yeah. No. You say that, but we never do. No, we're going to watch them. Okay.
Like I said, I have all 3 of them. I bought.
But you gotta watch them.
There was a sale, and it was all of them 4K, and I was like, I'm gonna buy them all. They were like
Voodoo.
Yeah, they're like $5 a piece.
Yep. Shamed of you. Shame.
No.
Shame. No. Yeah, when she tells Dad, no.
Be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes. This is fun. I love you. Bye.
Bye.